PK in the universe, and I am back again with another video, and today I'm here to talk about gaming stewardship. We hear so much about gaming ownership that I kind of wanted to flip the script and talk about something nobody talks about. Talking about the topic of ownership, game collecting, that's all a lot of people talk about in the retro gaming community. Sometimes the collecting is more important than actually playing the games, which is a very common thing. It's something I actually discussed in my previous video, but I don't want to get too deep into that. Let's talk about, ownership. Ownership, I hate to say it, but it's an illusion. And no, I don't mean illusion of Gaia. I mean, it's literally an illusion. Like, we always think that when we buy something or we have something that it's ours forever, but it's not really ours forever. Sometimes, we lose things. Sometimes we give them away. Sometimes, I don't know, the government seizes all our possessions because we didn't pay our taxes or something. Who knows? There's so many different reasons you might not own something forever. And not only that, when you die, you can't take it with you. And people talk so much about digital games not being ownership. And in a lot of cases, that is the case. That is the case, especially DRM games that are digital. But a lot of physical games, are basically just a license in themselves. And they even say that when you're playing it, that you don't actually really own this game. You just own the license to play it, even if you have a physical disc. That has become a common thing with modern gaming. So ownership is an illusion. And here's the thing. These things, even old games fail. They degrade over time. This is a device, it's a plastic thing that has metal in it, and you're hooking up to another metal thing and you're putting electricity through it. It's not going to last forever. These things aren't designed to last for eternity, though they are very durable. A good example, of my own personal history is my copy of Super Mario RPG. This is the copy that my mom got for me for my birthday or Christmas. I don't remember which, because my birthday and Christmas are both very close together. And, it still plays. When I put it in my Super Nintendo, it still turns on and I can play it. But the thing is, I can't save it because the battery is dead. Now, as a custodian, as a steward, my responsibility to keep this in working order would be to take it apart and replace the battery, or find somebody who is, not incompetent and could actually do this on their own and not destroy the game. But do I have the time to do that? Do I have the time to find somebody to do that? I do not. And I don't know that I would feel comfortable with them, taking apart my childhood copy of a game that means so much to me. It's my favorite game of all time. Whenever somebody asks me, hey, what's your favorite game? I'm like, Super Mario RPG. It's always my answer. I don't know if it truly is my favorite game of all time, but it is the favorite game of all time for me from when I was a kid. And that means something to me. Super Mario RPG is incredible. But at the end of the day, it's just a physical item. It is a physical item that I am in possession of and in charge of. And that's what stewardship is. It's guardianship, it's you're the temporary custodian of this historical archive, this historical piece of thing. Gaming history, not actual history. This isn't George Washington's sword or something like that, but it has a place in gaming history. It was the very first team up where Nintendo and Square made a Mario RPG. This was the first Mario RPG of any kind. And it's a neat little novelty. And of course, there's different ways to play it now. There's the remake, which is probably what I would introduce my son to because it's just so much more approachable. But I would want him to know the history. And that kind of brings me to the next point, is how community is key with these kind of things. Whether you have friends in the retro gaming community who you know online, or you've met at conventions, or your own family who partake in the retro gaming experience. You as a steward are the one who talks about the history of these things. In fact, I've been reading a book to my son lately about RPGs. It's a really good book. And it's actually mentioned and touched on Mario RPG, and it's actually brought up conversations that I've been able to have with my son about my own experience. So it's been a great conversation starter, and maybe I'm slowly putting the idea in his head that maybe he wants to actually play this. This is an awesome game, and it's super approachable. It's super easy. So maybe that could be the way that gets him into that. He has a lot of games, we all have our own things. I have the games I like. He has games that he likes that I don't like. We all have different tastes, and it's important to let your kids have their own taste in games. But it's okay also to, share your experiences with them too and see if they gravitate to that. And sometimes we have these games in our collection, and sometimes we look at them and even think to ourselves, does this really belong to me? For example, I own the game Earthbound, or should I say I am the steward of Earthbound, because I will always think of this as my friend Andy's game because he gave this to me actually a couple years ago. And I'm just blown away that he trusted me as the person to be the steward of this game. It's an incredible game. It's a game I have on my, I don't want to say backlog. I don't like the term backlog, but it's a game I do want to experience, and I want to experience it on original hardware on my CRT TV. So I'm absolutely feel privileged and honored that I actually am the steward of this particular game, this particular cartridge. And his file is still on here. I am not going to clear that file. In fact, at some point, for archival purposes, I'm going to get a device where I can save the actual ROM from this and save the game save so I can preserve that. That's another part of stewardship, is preserving and maintaining these devices so they continue to work and having archives of them. The thing too is when you look at yourself and when you have that stewardship game mindset, you're less likely to want to sell something like this. I've sold plenty of games over the years. I have, because sometimes I didn't need the game anymore and I was happy to send it to a home of a more interested person. A person who really wanted the game. A person that game maybe meant something to, maybe meant more than it meant to me. I can understand, the conflict of stewardship and, ownership, because when you own something, you can sell it. And this is true to an extent, but you're not really selling the game. You're selling a copy of the game, and that's an important distinction that I don't think enough people make. It's not like you're the IP holder. I mean, you didn't make this game, okay? You're just selling a copy of it at the end of the day, a physical copy. And we don't think about that word copy the same way when we are the steward of something. When you're the steward of something, you're way less likely to sell it because when you're a steward, the whole concept of speculation of what the price is just totally goes out the window. It's tempting, but when you're the steward of something, you want to, keep that around because it's about the community itself, the community in your own life, whether that be your family or your friends who are into retro gaming that you know personally. It's more than just, this is something to put on a shelf. No, this is something to appreciate. And I think it's hard to play all the games we have, and that's a hard reality that we have to face as busy adults again and again every day. But that doesn't mean we can't hold on to it and appreciate it for what it is. And I still will pop this thing in just to make sure that file of Andy's is still on here, because I know this game means something to him. Maybe the physical item didn't mean as much to him, but that game, whenever I see that game, I always think of my buddy Andy, because he's the first person I think I ever knew that actually played the game. So, and obviously since he sent me this, but yeah, I wanted to talk about, for this video, the idea of stewardship. This is not a video to tell you that, you shouldn't buy games or own games or anything like that. It's not that kind of video. This video is about reframing our minds around the idea of what it means to have games in our possession. Not necessarily, it's not about ownership. It's about, sharing our experience. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing about a video game is not what's on the cover, but what's inside. So anyways, what are your guys' thoughts? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay awesome in this universe. Later.